Well, hello, and here we are on another Journey Podcast Live. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Simon Howard. And Simon is MD CEO of Introducing Events. The clues on his title there behind him, on his screen rather than behind him. This is possibly one of the most professional I've done in context of, if you just look at Simon's background and everything, he's clearly a pro, and this is therefore going to be like watching Sky TV meets BBC, never mind YouTube. So we're live today on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And without further ado, I'm going to invite Simon to introduce himself in terms of who you are, Simon, and what you do.
Thank you very much, Phil. And firstly, thank you very much for having us. Like you say, we're not subtle about our branding. I've been called many things over the years, but subtle is probably never one of them. So as you say, my name's Simon Howard. I am the founder and director of Introducing Events. I've been in the corporate event space for the last 17 years. We only actually launched Introducing Events last year, so we're going about 18 months, but we are specialists in corporate events, conference production, team building, interactive entertainment, and we're on a bit of a mission to basically put an end to boring meetings and events. So that is us.
Well, I don't think you'll get any arguments from anybody about there's a bit of a need to do that. In all honesty, Simon, there's so much to cover. So I guess the first place I'd like to start is probably having a chat about, I guess, what you might call before COVID and after COVID. Obviously, events got absolutely hammered with a capital H over the heart. I don't have to tell you that. I'm sure you went through it. Just start off then telling us what exactly happened and how tough really was it when everything started to go a bit south when COVID arrived.
So pre-COVID, I was actually freelance. I was an event host and event planner. So I worked with a lot of the biggest sort of event agencies around the UK. I go and when they got sort of custom briefs in for activities. So if let's say an event organizer came to them and said, look, we've got a theme for our conference this year. It's whatever it is, X, Y, Z, superheroes, whatever it might be. We want to do a fun activity. What can you do? Then I go and work with some of the agencies, make that come alive. And that's mostly what I was doing. So designing sort of bespoke events, bespoke experiences for them, and then going, designing it, delivering it, and hosting it as well. Like you say, when COVID hit, all of a sudden my diary became very empty in about probably a 3-day period. And at first, like everybody else, we were sat there going, yeah, this is a bit of, flu. It's a bit, the media over dramatizing things. And then when it got about 3 or 4 weeks in, we actually started going, this is going to be a little bit more, long term than we'd realized. And basically we had to make a decision on what we were going to do with it. A lot of my friends and colleagues then, all the agency I was working for, they just went to nothing. Like you say, it was literally within about a week's notice. We went from the busiest diary I've probably ever had to just absolutely nothing. So it was bleak times very much at the start. But I don't like the word pivot. It makes me makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable using the word pivot. But what we did is we used all our experience. I've been in, let's say, corporate events probably 16, 17 years pre-COVID. We used that experience of creating unique experiences, dealing with problems. We're event planners, we're experience creators, and we just take problems and we just find solutions. So that's what Introducing Events did. And we basically went for the virtual market, and we had a roaring success, actually. It got me to a lot of places and events that I would never have previously been involved with. We got to launch Introducing Events off the back of it. We went fully into the virtual space, and I'm not going to lie, we actually had a great time doing it as well.
Was it something, or is it something that you are personally comfortable with then, the technology? Do you enjoy it? Because, obviously a lot of people are like frightened to death of it. And a lot of people really struggled, didn't they? That adapting. I know a number of training companies, I know there were great trainers in a room, but when it came to training on screen, they really, really struggled with engagement or assessing engagement, etc. Was it something you really took to like a duck to water, or did it take a while to adapt?
So I think the issues that most people had is, like you say, they were good at what they did in the room, so they just took that exact format, stuck it on the internet, and just went, "This doesn't work," and they didn't really do anything else with it. Like I think a few people tried it, and it wasn't great, and they just didn't really evolve with it. And it's a very different experience, different the way that you communicate with people, the attention spans online, and it was a completely different train of thought for me, because basically every other event company was sat there going, "This is terrible. We can't do this. We can't do that. We can't put on meetings. We can't get together." And I sat there and went, "What can we do? What is possible? What can I get an audience at home or socially distanced, geographically distanced? What can I physically get them to do?" And that's really what we focused on. And that's why we had so much success, because there was other people doing, you can come on and do a quiz, and it's like, that's okay. We were doing more interactive game shows. We were doing race nights. We were doing murder mystery experiences, but we made everything about the audience. So we very quickly stood out as being different to other people, because it was an experience, not just something you watch and go, "Yeah, that's okay." But plus, with my sort of conference production background, I knew a bit of tech. My sort of setup, as you say, it looks slightly different to other people. Everyone else just had the laptop with a 50p webcam and terrible sound, and we just went, "Let's put some production in it." We had the green screen for different things, we had professional lighting, microphones, camera setups, and all of a sudden it really separated us. And I just looked into that technology, and I didn't necessarily go, "I need somebody to build me an app." I just went, "What technology is out there that allows me to really engage and connect with audiences?" And then we got creative of how we use that technology. So it was a very steep learning curve at the time, but I just played around with things until we found formats that we could just rinse and repeat and just work fantastically.
Yeah, I think, and obviously congratulations on that. But I was talking to quite a few people during the COVID situation, and I used to say to people, the difference will be those that can adapt and those that can't. And it was fairly obvious, I suppose, if you like. And I suppose in a similar kind of way, it was very similar to the restaurants that went into delivery very quickly, as opposed to those that were sat twiddling their thumbs and crying in the soup.
And I totally agree, because there was a lot of event companies that I know throughout lockdown, they just shut down and went, "Oh, we'll wait it out. We're getting some kind of government funding for a bit of support. We can survive. We can furlough a few people." And some of them made it, some of them didn't. It was quite nice that a lot of the big companies who I was working before, they still had a lot of their clients going, "We still want to do something, but we haven't got anything for people still want to do events. They still want to get people together. They still want them to have positive and fun experiences, but we haven't got anything." And that's where we were so busy, because people are like, "Simon's doing stuff. He'll make it fun. He'll make it exciting." And that's where, we helped a lot of the people we've been working with, or I've been freelancing for pre-COVID, just survive, basically, keep their clients on board. I know one of the first clients we had was for one of the biggest event agencies in the country, and it was their biggest client. So they're like worth, a lot of money to them, let's say. And all of a sudden they were like, "You just need to do a great event for them. What can you do?" So there's quite a lot of pressure on it, but we succeeded. We carried on. We did multiple events for them. And so it was a lot of pressure early on. But as I say, if we found that right format, and we just went for it.
So what intrigues me is what's happened now, in terms of, has everybody just down tools in terms of online with events now that we're back to some kind of normality? In fact, so some people would say, did actually COVID happen, or did they have a fantasy dream about it? Have people still up for the online now, or have they really gone 100% almost back to the real world, as it were?
Well, there's a big push to, obviously, as soon as they could get people back into the room, let's get back, people back into the room, get them back together, rebuild those bonds. You'll as good as virtual events can be, it'll never be the same experience as an in-person event, and live in the same room, sharing those experiences together. And I think for the last sort of 12, 18 months, as soon as we were allowed, that was it. Everyone just went, "Let's just go back to where we could." But actually now I've got a couple of inquiries coming up, and it is for people are still utilizing the technology. So we've got a little bit hybrid. So I've got an event coming up where we're doing interactive entertainment at one office, and then we are live streaming it to a second office, and then also virtual delegates. I've got another one coming up where I'm speaking to them today about doing something where there's 300 to 500 people in a room at one of their offices, and then there's 1,000 people from all over the world who they want to bring in and incorporate. And it's a different attitude, because historically, pre-lockdown or pre-COVID, that wouldn't have even been thought about. I don't think. I think they would have had 300 to 500 people in a room. They have one meeting. They might have another meeting in America. They might have another meeting in somewhere around Europe. But it's actually bringing the whole team together is something that's quite nice that's come out of it, because during lockdown we were doing events for everybody, UK companies, American companies, like Australia, China, all over the world we were doing events for. But now what we found is a lot of people who are UK based have come to us and said, we really like the virtual stuff. Have you ever done a live event before? And that's why I actually launched Introducing Events, because I said, well, we've got these clients, we've done a good job, they appreciate what we do, and it's like, let's just roll that out to them. But then we've got another set of clients who would never have done an event before at all, because they are digital global teams. And we did like virtual Christmas parties for digital companies. So you literally have, it might only be small teams, 20, 30 people. They're all over the world. And they've gone, this is great. We'll just carry that on. And there's never any chance of it. It's very unlikely that they'll ever actually get together, just due to costs and working times and all these reasons. But actually, they can still share an event experience every year, just doing it on the virtual stage. So in many ways, the UK audience, I would say, is mostly back in person. There's some people that are still adapting to technologies, but as I say, there's those global teams that all of a sudden there's a completely new outlet that they never have before.
And how's the work from home culture impact on it then, Simon? I'm thinking, I've spoke to one or two people who I know, and they've said it's been more difficult to get people to, work together. And I suppose the team element of that is relevant, particularly, and that's, there are some very concerned, and there's some debate actually going on, isn't there, especially in public sector, about whether people should get back in the office. What's your view on that? What's been your observations around that?
It's an interesting one, the work from home, because I worked and been in a lot of offices recently, and it's one of the first questions I ask, because I go to a lot of big offices now, and there's like 6 people there. There's like 400 desks and 6 people in the room. I'm like, it's just everyone at home now. There's like, yeah, they get the option to come in, they could do that, or some places have now gone from, you can choose to either work at home or come in, but now some people are putting in like 2 days a week compulsory. Because I know some of my friends who are sort of freelance over the years, like they've got completely remote jobs. And it's great. They can stay at home. They're on good money, but they hate it because they're just so lonely. And it's just such a weird vibe. And the other big thing that I found is that when people say, oh, everyone's desperate to get back together, and it's like we've had 3 years of, pretty much not being together in a room, and they get them back together. They throw them in a room, and then it's just death by PowerPoint for 2 days. And they stick them in a dark room. They get talked at for 8 hours. They get, half an hour for lunch to catch up with their friends. And it's just a terrible experience, if I'm honest. And that's why we are introducing events in terms of our live events. That's where we've been asked to come into a lot of these places to do team building, to do ice-breaking events, to just give them a reason to actually interact. Because a lot of people, especially right after lockdown, they'd lost all their soft skills, their social skills. Some people's lockdown experience, they've literally been them in a flat on their own for 2 years. And then you push them into a room with 400 people who they don't really know. They might have been on a Teams call or a Zoom call for once a week with 6 or 7 people. But now there's 400 people, there's lighting, there's noise. It's very overstimulating. And I say people really felt apprehensive about coming back in. So that's why we've been doing a lot of activities to just break down those barriers and make sure it's a fun and positive experience, rather than just it's boring. It's stressful. It's, I've gone there, I got stressed out, and I just got talked at, and I didn't like it, and I went home, and then it's even harder to go to the next one. And moving away from events, we've actually been doing, for the past few weeks, we've been taking fun activities actually into people's office. So at lunchtime, we've had one of our crazy golf courses in the canteen. So all the staff come down, and all of a sudden there's a load of fun and games for people to play. And things like that people are actually doing to go, oh, actually, this is a nice environment. They are actually encouraging us to come in. And again, it's just trying to create those positive associations, because I know, like you said at the start, that working from home thing, it is, the longer it goes on, the harder it is to actually get people back in. So that's definitely a problem we are helping businesses tackle at the moment.
Yeah, I guess I always think it's down to balance a lot of the time, isn't it? Too much home working and you go stir crazy, and then too much office working and you go stir crazy. Yeah, but then that might be me, because I'm just like variety in my work. So it might be that I prefer it that way, of having the choice, and that's how I've always managed to do it. How has team building changed now? I mean, obviously there's leadership training and there's team building. And back in my day, in 1836, before the Boer War, when I was in corporate, it was all about go up the mountain together and try not to fall off it. How has it changed now? Is there a different mindset around what people want to do? Do they want to be more adventurous or more creative?
I think there's, from my experience, there's quite a big push to do, because historically they might have done things in small teams, be a bit more competitive. There's quite a big push to do things as one group, remind people they are part of the bigger team. So we do events like samba drumming. So if we've got 200 people, they're all very good, talented individuals, but we get them all in a room. We give them instruments they've never heard of. We give them all the tuition they need. And all of a sudden they are one harmonious samba band, and they're playing as one. They're listening to each other, engaging with each other. And there's that energy lift as well. And again, it just creates a positive experience, but there's a big message of being one team. So we've been seeing a lot of that. And as I said before about the just breaking down those barriers, there's a lot of people just want a positive association. So there's a lot more sway towards making sure people leave with smiles on faces. And that's what we do, and that's what's seen a real big push for. Like you say, historically, there might have been a bit more, let's get a lot of structure in this. And, we still do a mix of that. We still make sure there's purpose behind what they're doing. But the overall goal for a lot of companies, we just want people to have a great time, want to be part of the team, want to be part of the events, and actually come and basically work together and just build relationships with people.
Yeah, makes sense. So how often do people come to you with a pretty good idea of what they want and what they want to do versus we want to do something? Over to you, Simon.
That is 50-50, I would say. Some people see, what we do. I post a lot on like LinkedIn, and there's obviously information on the website, and they look at that and they go, oh, that's cool. Or some people just go, I want to do team building. But my first question always to them is, what do you want to get out of it? What are your event objectives? Why do you want to do it? Is it just for fun? Is it just want to have a good time, make the event more fun? Or is it you want people talking to each other? Do you want competition, get some excitement going? Is it, if we get like a sales team, they always want super competitive things? Or is it more you just want, people to feel part of an actual team, feel part as one? And so there's a bit of a mix, but we also, I say, historically, from my background of making people's sort of ideas come to life, that's what historically I always did. So when some clients do come to me and just go, we've got this idea, this is what we want to happen, they might have gone to a few companies already, and a lot of companies just go, no, this is it, this is what we do, you either buy that or you don't.
Here's the list, choose.
Exactly. But I'm very much, I like a creative brief, because literally about 3 weeks ago, there was a client who said, oh, we've got 160 people. We want to do an outdoor team build, get everyone together. But we're like, can we put a fun theme with it? Can we make it more interesting? I was like, what would you like? And like, circus fun fair. So you might have seen me dressed as the circus master with all my clowns behind me on LinkedIn a few weeks ago. And we just brought it to life, created like the big top entrance. And so we had like juggling workshops and various circus skills along with traditional team building, and it just fitted their brief. And same with the big industry events. We've done the conference and hospitality show in Birmingham last year. They had a Peaky Blinders evening, and I'd never seen Peaky Blinders, but a company approached me and said they want to do a race night as part of Peaky Blinders. And I was like, I don't understand why, because I've not seen it. I've seen it now. I did my research. But they said we've gone to 5 companies who do race nights as entertainment. And not everyone's just said, no, we don't do Peaky Blinders. And they came to me and said, can you make that happen? I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. What's Peaky Blinders? But we have the chat, we have the time, we have the budget to do it. We put our creative spin on it. And that's why people sort of stop looking at other companies and come to us, and we just go, if we've got the time and the budget, we can bring your ideas to life. So there's a real mixture in there. But as I say, I like a creative brief and I like a challenge. So.
Yeah, well, I can tell. I know I've not known you for long, but I can tell that. And your personality and your natural enthusiasm is just very, very infectious. And I don't want to make you feel awkward on this, but it's what we always say, that people buy people. And I've very little doubt that part of the success of what you're doing is your natural enthusiasm for it. So, good on you for doing that.
So I think the weirdest, just to give you a little anecdote, I think the weirdest request I ever had was we used to work for let's say a large food manufacturing company. I won't give away names, but we used to do the Christmas party every year, and the PA to the MD, I thought she was brilliant, but she always had very creative ideas and very hard to get a hold of her because she was very busy. But one day she'd just ring me out the blue. It's like, this person's on the phone, put her through. She's like, is that Simon? I was like, yes. She said, I've sent you an email. This is our theme for our Christmas party this year. And I opened my email and there was just a picture of a shark. And I was like, there's just a picture of a shark in my email. She's like, yeah, that's my thing. I want an underwater Christmas party with real mermaids. It's like, so have you been drinking at lunchtime? But no, we went with it, and we ended up, and it was just such a I had no idea how we're going to do this. But 6 months later, there we were. We had we had to wind in, and obviously make the point of mermaids aren't real, but we got as close as we could with ladies in tanks and stuff. And we had a whole journey of people getting on a cruise ship and then having dinner on like the Titanic style deck, and then afterwards the underwater party with. We had inflatable fish swimming around above all the delegates and stuff, all the staff dressed in wetsuits. And it just brought her idea to life. But at the time, when I got the phone call, it's always one of them where you just go, how's this going to happen? But as I say, time and budget, we can make anything happen.
I've got a question, actually, funnily enough, from Judith. And Judith says she's a training manager. And she said she's always trying to instill joy and enjoyment in her training, and she thinks that being in what she calls magnolia wall training rooms now is, in the TikTok age, she says, is boring as hell, is her words exactly. What's your thoughts on this? Do you think training will have to be more entertaining moving forward?
I think the way, like you say, that the TikTok era, people's attention spans have dropped. It's you've got to be quick and snappy, and I think even the way we sort of program events now, say coming back after COVID for conferences, people were just like, oh, we'll just go straight back to a 3-hour presentation from the accounts team. I'm like, people have got used to the virtual events where it's 15, 20-minute segments, and I do think breaking things up and putting different elements in is the way forward in terms of managing that attention span, really mixing it up. And I think any opportunity you can get to bring the audience in, bring the people you're training in, and actually get them to interact, participate, physically do something rather than just sitting there and being talked at. And I'm sure your training and everything you're doing is very interesting and exciting, but the more you can just break can't think what the word is now, just the way the delivery, let's say, just vary the delivery. What are people actually doing? Because I've seen, I say, virtual and live events where it is literally just one way, and you will lose that, especially like you say, if you're in that vanilla training room. So just think about the way you do it. You know, can you get activities in there? Do you have question and answer sessions, mini quizzes, whatever it is? Just try and break up the, I don't want to use the word monotony, but the continuous style of delivery, if you like, and that just might bring a bit of fun. But anything you can do to make it fun and exciting, just throw it in. Just why not?
I think monotony was a very good word, actually. I think you're fine with that.
Sorry, Jude, nothing personal, Jude.
Yeah.
Good question.
Comment here from Claire. I love your background, Simon. How do I get one? For a 45-minute webinar about how you do virtual backgrounds.
To be fair, I feel like this background's got me a lot of I got a lot of work over lockdown. So I started hosting so many events from home, and I was hosting. This is literally my home studio, and because I had a lot of tech already, just through events, and I do a bit of photography, so that's why my webcam's so good, etc. But in terms of that, basically, it's just I committed so much to events. I went from having a green curtain for a green screen behind me to I've literally painted the wall green. So we can't take the studio down now because I've just got a big weird green wall behind me. But yes, there's various softwares you can use to do this. You know, if you're on Zoom, they have options for backgrounds. If you're on Teams, they have options for backgrounds. But I've got a third-party software I can't remember the name of right now. Let me see if I can bring it up. OBS, which is what I use for this one today. But yeah, there's various softwares and stuff you can use, and I've designed the background. I've got the team to design the background in-house, and yeah, we can do fancy things with that. But I'm glad you appreciate the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a question I get asked quite a lot, and what I always say really is that it's all very, very much self-learnable. You know, these days with Udemy, YouTube, if you just put the time and effort in, you can learn how to do it. Live streaming, the biggest fear for live streaming for most people is the idea of actually sticking their face on camera or being heard, having to listen to their own voice and all those lovely things. But also one of the things that comes up a lot is that technophobia, the fear of the tech. But in reality, I usually say, well, you weren't born being able to drive, but you figured it out, so and you do. And I think that's something that if you're interested in it enough, you'll learn it. A word of warning, and I don't know if this is something Simon can relate to, but a word of warning. If you get into this stuff and it really excites you and you really get quite geeky about it and nerdy about it, it can get very expensive very quickly because you always want the best camera. And then somebody says, oh, your camera looks great. And that makes you think, oh, right. Okay. And I'm sure Simon can back me up on this. There's always the next camera upgrade coming. There's always the next mixing desk coming where you've got all sorts of various gizmos that make you, I've got what's called a Rodecaster Pro 2 here, and you can make your voice go into Mickey Mouse and all sorts of garbage. But you get great fun from it. And before you know it, you're basically destitute, living in a cardboard box, but you've got great tech. So
that's it. To be fair, I've had a lot of people over the last year or two ask about how this happened. They're like, oh, what do I need to invest in? And I always say, first and foremost, get an external microphone is my top tip. But right before you start looking at backgrounds and cameras, because like you say, you can throw money at cameras. But if I didn't have the camera that I had, like the camera I've got's probably about $5,000 now, but I had that for photography. It's it's a professional DSLR camera with a professional lens on it. I don't need that. It's just I conveniently had it because pre-lockdown I was about to start doing event photography as well. So I just went for it, and now it's just my webcam. It's just part of the studio. But good lighting, get that sorted. If that'll improve your. You don't need to upgrade your camera. Just get a desk lamp, anything. Get it behind your screens. Get it behind your camera so it's shining on you. That'll improve things first and foremost. But the thing that most people do, with this or podcasts particularly, they're going to listen to it first rather than watching it. So if you are going to invest anything before you go mad on cameras, get your sound sorted out. Get an external microphone. If you want to get a little mini sound desk, like you say, Phil, you don't have to get a Rodecaster Pro, but there's just something where you can just tweak your sound, make it a little bit better. But I say a moderate price microphone, I would say, is the best starting blocks. But then, like you say, you can just keep on spending. But for 99% of people, it's completely unnecessary. You know, for me, if I wasn't an event host, if I wasn't hosting global conferences and awards shows and team building around the world, I wouldn't be spending the money or I wouldn't have you know, this fancy of a setup, if you like.
Yeah, it's investment, isn't it? It's an investment.
If that's what you do, you know, if that's what your job is, if you're an online trainer or you are hosting events or whatever it is, and you do want it to look really sharp, but like you say, Phil, you know, if you go on YouTube, there's loads of videos of how to tweak your lighting, how to do simple things. You know, you can even use your phone as a webcam. There's some phones have got brilliant cameras on now. Hook that up as a webcam. There's loads of top tips on there to just improve your digital and virtual image while you're on video chats.
I knew this was going to happen, and it's happened. Jonathan, what microphone would you recommend? That's Simon. And when you said it, I thought, I know what's coming. I know what's coming. And as we know, there's about 4 million options.
Well, I wish I got an Amazon affiliate link now ready to go for this. Exactly, what a missed opportunity. I'll tell you what I've got. I've got a Marantz Professional. I think it's a 1000, which is what I've got at the minute, but that does plug into a little sound desk. But as I say, go on. I would say you want to be spending between about 50 and 100 quid on a microphone minimum. If you want to go to 200 quid, I know there's a Rode. I can't remember what model it is, but it's sort of long and thin, and it's a really directional microphone. It looks like a
NTG.
Could well be. Could well be.
Yeah.
Could be that one. But...
I funnily enough, I would have said exactly the same there, Simon.
Okay.
You know, about 100, not really less than 60, 70 quid. If you get something for 15 quid off Temu, you're knackered. That's all.
To be honest, I started off with, if you look back at my early LinkedIn promotional photos when we're doing virtual events, I had a shiny, I'm just wondering if it's still here somewhere, but I can't see it. It's a nice shiny gold one off Amazon. It cost me about 20 quid. And to be fair, it was a lot better than my laptop microphone. But after about 6 months, it very quickly went downhill. And then I spoke to I've got a friend who's a local radio DJ, and he had that for... They basically, during lockdown, had to take the radio streaming system home. They all had their own little setup at home. And he's like, I use this microphone. I've got this little sound desk. It's great. So I went off his tips. But I know the Rode microphones are, great. A brand.
Yeah, they are. Rode is brilliant. They're somewhere in the middle, basically, in terms of quality. I mean, this particular one here, which I think I can show, this particular one is called a Shure SM7B. You'll see these all over the place. And they're just the go-to microphone in the podcast kind of world. These are about 300 quid. I think Michael Jackson recorded Thriller on one of these, believe it or not. So it's stuck. It's really, really amazing that they're still so popular, so long after that. While we're on a roll, this is a Rode NT. This is a Rode NTH 5th generation. That's a condenser. That's some dynamic. And like I said, you can get very geeky very, very quickly. So
I like the way we're just talking serial numbers now. I prefer the Shure SM50. You know,
I know. I've noticed about 400 people have just signed off the minute we got into that. Okay, back to the core of the interview. So how do you find that you do? What sort of lead generation works best for you then, Simon? I know obviously we met originally at the Shout Network at meeting. Does networking work best for you? Word of mouth? Because it is something I get asked a lot in this arena. I don't know if you're the same, but you know what? Because it can get very confusing. The whole marketing arena now is confusing. You know, people are just kind of get their heads around Facebook and Instagram, and then something comes around called bloody TikTok, and then all of a sudden everything's about that. And then we get Threads, and then everything's about that. what's your views in terms of your business to business approach? That how do you find that lead gen works best for you?
It's a tough question, yeah. For me, as I say, we've been going, as I say, about 18 months now, and it is mostly me behind the scenes, pushing that and the marketing and I have tried a variety of things in a relatively short time. And the best thing I've found is just getting out and meeting people. Because I've been in many industry publications, I've done articles, I've done like webinars and podcasts and things. And it might get my name out and stuff, but most of it is just going chatting to people. Like I've got a bit of an advantage in terms of what I do and promoting what I do, because I've been on stage for 17 years. And if I go to a big industry event like the Meeting Show or the Conference and Hospitality Show, and I'm chatting to people, all people do is go, I know you from somewhere. And it's like, it could be anywhere. It's like, there's 17 years on stage. I do all the virtual stuff. I host the biggest, Event Tech Live, which is the biggest hybrid event in Europe dedicated to event and technology. I host Event Buyers Live, which is the biggest event for the biggest event producers on the planet. We get people like Ed Sheeran's tour manager and stuff comes to that. I host, as I say, the Conference and Hospitality Show, Leeds, Birmingham, plus thousands of corporate events for 17 years. So I try and play a bit of a game of who do you work for and try and do that. But I say for me, it's just chatting to people and they go, oh, I know who you are now. I really like what you did. And it's pretty much the only thing I found that works for me is showing people what we do, or just going, we did that, and then people go, oh, was that you? Like, because we've not heard of the brand. And that's where I'm sort of like pushing things at the minute, just trying to tell people who I am, what we've done, and where they have seen us, and then they go, oh yeah, we like you, and then they book us. Or it's referrals from other people, because people, especially during lockdown, every virtual event we did, we either got a referral to another department in that company, or they passed us on to another one. So we just went on and on and on and on. We weren't doing any real marketing. It was just, we just did a brilliant event, got great feedback, and then people just shouted from the rooftops. But in terms of the success of marketing, as I say, print doesn't seem to do much for us. We do a bit of the promotion on, like say the LinkedIn, the socials, just to show a bit of what we do. But generally, yeah, it's just meeting people and going, this is who I am, this is what I've done, this is what we can offer, and people sort of go that way.
And there was me hoping that you would come up with what I'm always asked for every week, magic pixie dust.
Yeah, I quite like a bit of a sprinkle of that myself.
Harry Potter used it all, mate. HP just used it in the movies.
So it's a tough one, because obviously every industry is, and every service is just completely different, and obviously different clients live on different platforms and do different things. So it's just really trying to find that your group. And obviously I'm part of Shout Network with you, Phil. I've worked with a lot of networking groups, and I've just gone to some and I've gone, this isn't my audience. It's just they're all lovely people. I can have a great chat with them. It's not my audience. It's not my crowd. And then I've gone to some that I like. They probably are my crowd. I really don't like the format of some networking groups, which I will not mention, but I'm like, this is not for me. This, I like to go have a bit of fun, find those similar, relaxed kind of people, but they are there to do business as well. And, they are the sort of businesses that we help. So it's finding the right groups to say, if you do want to do networking, I think it does work very well. But again, I've met some people online that have not been good for me, but I've passed them on to other people, and they've done amazingly well. They get like 50, 60 inquiries a month at the minute off just one recommendation. I've just go and chat with them, and and it's just not necessarily like you. I'm sure Phil. It's not who's in the room; it's who they know and the bigger network. But I do believe it works, but it does take the effort to keep going with it. I think in a lot of these things,
it does, and a lot of it is patience. And a lot of it is understanding that we live in an instant gratification world, which will kick you in the nuts if you're not careful. So, we order something on Amazon, and now here in Manchester, it's delivered literally the same day, if not within a couple of hours, never mind in 3 days' time. So everybody's looking for instant gratification, and the same on social media. It's like social media is not a sales tool, it's a brand development tool, and you have to be patient and keep turning up. And that's one of the things I say about the podcasting is that if you agree that you need to be seen and heard in order to grow your business, then you've then got to say, okay, well, that makes sense in theory. So I now need to be seen and heard in order to grow my business. It really isn't rocket science.
No,
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you something. Just something came to mind then. Something I come across a lot that you may have seen yourself as well, mate, is this whole idea of imposter syndrome. Now, you're obviously up there doing your thing regularly. I suppose the question is, are you up there as cool as a cucumber, or are you up there not so cool as a cucumber, but able to pretend you're as cool as a cucumber? What's going on in your mind when you're up there? Are you very confident up there, or is it a little bit more to it?
Well, it's weird you bring up imposter syndrome because I literally live. My partner is an imposter syndrome public speaker in the veterinary space. So it's and I've heard one or two talks about imposter syndrome in the past, but I'm very aware of what that is. You can check out Dr. Katie Ford if you look her up.
You're going to see her on here, aren't you?
No, absolutely. Yes, I forgot we'd made that happen, but absolutely, yes.
Networking at its best.
Absolutely, I'll say that'll be a good podcast of anyone who is suffering with imposter syndrome.
So watch this space. Katie Howard's coming to a screen near you.
Katie Ford, let's not get carried up.
Katie.
Don't be dropping that one on here. But to answer your question, let's move quickly on.
I've married you off. Could you just?
You've preempted some things there, but to answer your question, it's an odd one because I wouldn't say I'd ever suffered from, obviously speaking to Katie about what imposter syndrome is, and I kind of know what it is and understand what feeling like a fraud and imposter and I shouldn't be there, but it's for me. Now, I'll just get up in front of any audience and rather than get possibly a little bit nervous, I get excited. I just take that energy and I love it. I thrive off it. And this is what people don't get. And it's weird because a lot of people say to me, they go, oh, you're lucky you are. You're just a natural. I wish I was confident like that. But I'll let you into a secret. I started hosting events at 21. I graduated uni with a management degree. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I started looking at the graduate management schemes, and I actually worked for Gala Bingo back in the day. That was my first proper job. I got on the graduate scheme for them. And part of the management training program is you had to go up on stage every day and welcome people to the bingo, do all the legal checks, make sure everyone had the right tickets, tell about promotions and stuff. And I hated it. I was bricking it. Like I go up there and I will be terrified. I'd probably be awful. And if you've ever been to the bingo, I've done a whole stand-up comedy routine on this, so I won't get too far into it. But the bingo audience, they're not friendly. If they don't like you, they will tell you. So it was
the fire.
Oh, it is. It literally was like they would just tell you they didn't like you get off the stage. But I did that with them for like 2.5, 3 years. But actually doing it day after day after day, I got a little bit more comfortable with it. And rather than just being like frozen there, just holding a microphone, welcome to the bingo, please don't shout at me. And one day I did get a bit more comfortable and confident, and I just made a sort of quip, a little remark, and I got this little ripple of like laughter, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try that again tomorrow. And I did it again the next day and the next day, and then I was like, actually I can be entertaining here. I can give people a bit of a more fun experience. And then I developed that into, because we did 14 sessions a week. I'm not sure if you know Bingo World, but we did afternoon sessions, do evening sessions, 7 days a week. But the Tuesday afternoon session was very different to the Tuesday evening session, completely different audience. And then you get the weekend audience, completely different to the midweek. So all of a sudden I got to interact with different audiences. And I was all about trying to have a little bit of two-way with them and just have a bit of a conversation. And that for me then started getting me very comfortable, very confident on stage. I knew what worked with different audiences. I know how to read audiences. So that took it away. But then moving on to the corporate world, when I started doing corporate events, probably 16 years ago now, that became very much a different audience again. So hosting team building, hosting game shows, love all that, the fun stuff. But then when it came to hosting the conferences and things, I was a bit like, in my head, I was like, why would they listen to me? And that was a different kind of thing. It's like, why am I stood in front of a load of professional business people who I know limited about their industry, but all of a sudden I'm comparing their conference. But the feedback I got was so good, and people would come up to it at the end going like, which department do you work in? We've never heard of you, but why have you not? Why are you so good at this? And it was like, and they just assumed I was part of the team, and they were like, oh, you not even work for us. But yeah, and as things went on, I just went, this is what I do. I've got this skill set. I know how to read people. I know how to engage people. We know how to get that message across in the right way, make it a memorable experience. And so now I am up for anything. I'll be honest, because in 2021, I got a phone call. I did a big event for the NHS for a big virtual event during lockdown. And the same company who did that organised the light switch on for Bradford. They did the Christmas light switch on. And so they rang me up and said, do you want to come and host the turning on of the Bradford Christmas lights? We're having Titchy Strider headlining. We've got people off X Factor doing it. And I was like, you sure you've rung the right site? And that was a bit like, why did they want me? They're just like, you're just a good host. You just engage people. You just work with it. And they say it didn't matter. I wasn't a name as such. But that, things like that take a little bit of getting used to. But now I just love it. And anything I can get my teeth into, put smiles on faces, get audiences excited, then yeah, I am well up for. And no, I don't worry about it anymore.
So you heard it here first, folks. Simon, I'm up for anything. Howard will be appearing on OnlyFans a week on Tuesday.
Hey, if you got deep pockets.
Absolute joy talking to you. Do you want to share with everybody where they can find you, contact you, find out more about introducing events, or contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to introducingevents.com, and I say there's plenty of info on there. I am mostly, if you want to know what we're up to and stuff, follow us on LinkedIn. Come and join me and Simon Howard on LinkedIn. Or as I say, you can follow our page for Introducing Events on there. I've already got over 1,000 followers to say we've only been going a few months on it. So we keep things up to date, and you can see all the random events and things that I get myself involved with on there as well. So it'll be fantastic to see you there.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Simon. Really enjoyed that. Lots of stuff to unpack there, lots of insight and ideas. So that's the end of this episode then of the Journey Podcast Live. We will see you again down the road, Bronze, as I think Mad Max once said. Thanks a lot, Simon. Brilliant. Enjoyed it very much. And I'll see you on the road.
Thanks, Phil. Look forward to it.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Cheers. Bye. Bye-bye.